And welcome into Facebook Live for Pressbox Live. And we want to remind you that Pressbox Live is now brought to you by C3 America Exteriors. Go to their website at c3america.com to get your roof damage repaired for just the cost of your deductible. Welcome in. I'm Stan the Fan Charles, and with me is Ross Grimsley, the old left-hander. Ross, how's the new year treating you so far?
Wonderful, buddy. Everything's going good. We're remodeling the first floor, so we got a lot of action here at the house.
All right, I'll have to hook you up with C3 America Exteriors.
There you go.
All right. Joining us now is one of our favorite people in Birdland, and as the former Oriole baseball pitcher who happened to pitch for LSU and got to know a certain football coach a little bit after his time at LSU. That's the great Ben McDonald. Ben, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing good, Stan. I tell you what, everything's good. Looking forward and hoping and fingers are crossed that baseball season is going to start on time. So I've done about all the hunting I can do, man. I'm kind of hunted out, and so now I'm ready to change gears and go to baseball.
All right. Well, we're ready to hunt for some wins this year. Before we talk baseball, and that's obviously why we have you on, I know you're an SEC guy, and you follow it pretty good on baseball and football. Who do you like and who do you think will win tonight? Not who are you rooting for. Who do you think will win the Alabama-Ohio State game tonight?
Well, anybody that's followed college football, and I probably don't follow it as much as a lot of people do, but watching Alabama in the SEC this year, man, they've got a stout team. Everybody knows that. And Nick Saban, to me, is the best coach in the country and arguably the best coach ever to coach college football. And when you take that talent and attention to detail and as good of a coach he is, I got to pick Alabama tonight. Not because I'm an SEC guy, just because I think that that's the best team in the country this year. So I think Alabama wins the national title and yet another title for Saban in Alabama.
And you were telling me before we went live here tonight, you got to know him a little bit when he was the head coach at LSU.
Yes, got to spend some time with him. And, he's the kind of coach, he's an in-your-face kind of coach. He's no BS in you. He's going to tell you what he thinks. His players, I think the players respect that, but they also respect the fact that he's got some NFL experience and he creates NFL players. And that's why you see him get so many 4- and 5-star. I'll tell you a quick story about him. He is so attention to detail. I knew the equipment manager at LSU when Saban was the head coach there. And Saban actually gave the equipment manager a piece of paper one day and a diagram, and he gave it to him and said, "This is how I want the equipment trailer packed for the road trips. This is the order. The helmets go here, the shoulder pads, and so on and so forth." But that's what kind of coach he is, and it's hard to argue with the success that he's had.
Hey, one last football question. You think Saban, if he stays at LSU rather than tried the NFL experience with the Dolphins, do you think he would have had the amazing run he's had at Alabama? Would that same run have taken place at LSU?
I think so. I mean, it's no reason to think it wouldn't have because, he comes from Michigan State where he did well. He comes to LSU and takes over a very mediocre program in the, early 2000s. And in 2007 wins a national title in his third year there. So, and then he goes to Alabama quickly after he leaves the Dolphins, and Alabama was a very mediocre program when he took them over. And I think in the third year, he wins a national title at Alabama. So, being in the SEC, and of course, I'm an SEC guy. Everybody knows that. But, it's proved itself as the best football conference in the country, in recent years. And being in the SEC and being able to recruit like he has. Now, he's a great coach, but he's got horses, too. And you guys know that. I mean, every year, Alabama's 1 or 2 in the country when it comes to recruiting and football. And they get a lot of 4- and 5-star guys in there. But to answer your question, in a long way, yes, I think if he stays at LSU, he has just as much success at LSU as he did at Alabama, or he's having at Alabama.
I got one more, and then I'll toss you over to Ross for a few questions. We at Pressbox have, we did that cover story on you 2 years ago about your second career, being back in Baltimore and broadcasting. But in a factual nature, your second career really was being on ESPN doing SEC baseball analysis. Is coming back to work in the big leagues, the fact that it's Baltimore, is that more special to you? I know the money's the money, but if you were like broadcasting for the Detroit Tigers or Kansas City, would it mean as much to you as being back in Baltimore?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Baltimore to me is where I became a man, right? I mean, I stepped into Baltimore, and you guys remember I was a 21-year-old kid, fresh out of college, didn't know anything, never been in a minor league clubhouse to speak of, didn't know anything about the world. And for the first time, I'm living by myself at 21 years old, because I went to LSU, which is just 20 minutes down the road. So anytime I wanted to go see mom and dad, I'd hop in the car and go see all my buddies and mom and dad. Well, can't do that if you're living in Baltimore, right? And I fell in love with the Baltimore people, and I felt like they took to me for whatever reason. There were some ups and downs along the way, a lot of expectations, and hard to live up to all that kind of stuff. And of course, my career did not go the way I wanted to go because of injuries, and I hate that part of it. But the good news is I tried as hard as I could. We worked as hard as we could, and sometimes injuries happen in the game. But I always have loved Baltimore and always wanted to come back. And I'm just so glad I got the opportunity to come back in a small way at first and kind of got my feet wet with what was going on, and now taking on a bigger role, the next couple of years that I'm so looking forward to. And I feel like I'm fortunate to get in on the ground level of this rebuild, right? I mean, all my buddies mess me up. Oh, you're covering the Orioles. They're terrible. They lost 100 games 2 years. But I said, yeah, maybe so, but it's big league baseball at the end of the day. And I'm getting on the ground floor of what I really think is going to be an Oriole organization that is clearly on its way up and rising and going to be able to compete with anybody in the major leagues here in another year or two.
Ross, he's all yours.
Yeah, Ben, I know you mentioned that you didn't spend a lot of time in the minor leagues. You're number one draft choice with the Orioles in '89. Going to the big leagues really quick. You played in the Olympics and you won. You pitched real well there. Who was a big influence to you when you first got, obviously, in the minor leagues, and then when you got to Baltimore? Who was a big influence for you to teach you what the ropes were?
Yeah, I signed August the 19th, 1989, after my junior year of college. And September the 1st, I was in the big leagues. So 11 days. It was a whirlwind, and there was a lot of expectations for me. But, going back and looking at that team, it was a very young team. Everybody remembers the '89 team, a lot of young guys on that '89 team, but there were some veterans too. But I think Bob Melvin for me was my first catcher. Bo Mel kind of took me under his wing a little bit. Cal Ripken Jr., for whatever reason, gravitated toward me. I mean, he's a small town guy, and he knew I was a small town guy, and I think he could relate a little bit in some ways too. So those were the two guys that I kind of leaned on in '89, and really in 1992, with Cal. And everybody knows the story of me and Chris Hoyles and Cal Ripken Jr. and me and Chris scratching our heads after 1990 after a ball game, and Cal walked in and goes, "You guys don't have a clue of what you're doing." And I said, "No, Sir Ripken, I don't have a clue of what I'm doing." And he said, "Well, I can tell," because that was Junior, but it was just, he wasn't trying to show me up. Right. It was just us three in there. And he came up with this grand idea that I was not sold on at first, that he was going to call every pitch from shortstop to Hoyles, and Hoyles would relay them to me. And this went on for an entire season. And, in old baseball terms, after every game, we would sit down with a couple of adult beverages, me and Cal and Chris, and we would talk about why we threw certain pitches in certain situations. And that really sped up my learning process to have somebody like him to lean on. And in '92, Rick Sutcliffe came along, as you guys know, and Sutcliffe took my learning to a whole different level because he was 6'7". I could talk mechanics with him. He was a veteran guy that had done it all. And he taught me more about how to pitch and how to conduct myself on and off the field. And so those were probably, between Bob Melvin, Cal Ripken, and of course Rick Sutcliffe, were probably the three most important people early in my career.
Yeah, when I came over to the Orioles from the Reds in the winter of '73, 3 years pitching, I won 37 games with the Reds. I learned more pitching with in a four-man rotation with Cuellar, McNally, and Palmer. And the Orioles had a pitching philosophy, basically, and it was work quick, those strikes, hit spots. Obviously, there's some other things there, but very simple. Was there any type of philosophy that they had? Did they have that same thing where they wanted to get the hitters out as quick as you could and move on to the next guy? Did they have anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point, and that's where the game has changed, Ross, from where we were in your time in my time and where we are now. You know, and I said this on the air a couple of years ago, and everybody looked at me cross-eyed, but I said, for some reason, it feels like 2 ground balls and a pop-up is a bad inning for a pitcher now, because everything is swing and miss. It's got to be swing and miss this, swing and miss that. And I'm like you, we pitch to contact. You know, if I could go out and throw a 2-seamer down the way and I get a ground ball to second base and throw a 4-seamer up and away to the right and he flies out to right field and I strike out a guy, that's a great inning. But it's not like that anymore. It's almost all about, can you make a guy swing and miss? You're throwing 20, 22 pitches every inning. You're out of gas by the 4th or the 5th. But I'm like you. I was taught, okay, my idea is I'm going to finish what I start. My idea is I'm going to work as deep into this ball game as I can, because I know if I hang around long enough, I got a chance of getting some run support and I can win some ball games. That was our school of thought. Not that we didn't try to strike out guys. When you got that runner at third base and there was less than 2 out, okay, I got to turn it up a notch and I got to find a way to punch this guy out, because I can't let this guy score. So yeah, we try to strike guys out, but the game is just different now. You know, the launch angle, the bat path, get the ball in the air, let's hit home runs. Okay, if we strike out 180 times a year. And for pitchers, hey, it's max effort. You know that. It's, hey, give me what you got. Give me everything you got as a starter. If you're out of gas in the 4th, that's okay, baby. We got the bullpen behind you. And so it's changed now, you know, but it is what it is. I don't know if it's a fad that we're in. I really think it's going to start to roll back. I think it's going to convert back and put more value on pitchers that can give you 6 and 7 innings to rest bullpens from time to time. But I think that's just where we are right now.
Well, that, you know, and one of the things in I was going to wait for this, but Theo Epstein, he is taking accountability for the direction of the game that's taken with analytics. He made this comment. Analytics has stripped the game of its aesthetics, its symmetry, its entertainment value. He sees the game morphing into a unwatchable product dominated by strikeouts and velocity. He's determined to lead the fight in returning the game back to baseball and have the managers utilize their experience, their gut feeling, and reacting to what's happening between the lines. That is something. Do you have? I mean, this is what he said.
So he needs to become commissioner. That's what he should become.
He made that comment, and I just you know, wondered what your impressions and feelings about that.
Well, you know, there's really something in it for everybody right now. I mean, if you like strikeouts and you like pitchers that can blow gas and boy, they can bring it, it's a pretty good time for you. If you'd like to see the ball fly out of the ballpark, well, you're seeing that too. We're setting records there too. So we're striking out more than we ever have. We're hitting more home runs than we ever have. So there's a lot of excitement in those aspects if you like those two things. I really think it's a fad we're in with bat pass and launch angles. I think you're going to see in the next few years back to the Kirby Puckett, Paul Molitor, Wade Boggs, Rod Carew style, where you're going to start to see 2 or 3 guys on every team with a little bit flatter bat paths. It puts the balls in play a little bit more. You know, now errors don't happen at the big league level that often. We know that, and that's why we hit the ball out of the ballpark. The shifts had destroyed batting averages. The shifts have done it. If there's any one thing that I could pick on right now, and if I was the commissioner, I would say, dadgummit, we're going to play where we used to play. Everybody's going to play it straight up. You got to stay on your side of the field. If you want to play up the middle as a shortstop, that's great, but you can't cross over to second base. Now, people may think I'm crazy and you can play people anywhere you want to, but I think if we would do that, I think you would see some things change. You'd see a few more base hits. I think guys would quit striking out so much because they realize, okay, if I put the ball in play, there's some base hits out there for me along the way. And so if I could change one thing right now, I think it would be, let's get the guys more straight up and in their natural or I guess regular positions, if you will.
You know, it's funny. We did an interview today for the February press box. We're going to have Brandon Hyde on the cover. So we did a Q&A with him today. And I was talking to him about Chris Davis. Now, Chris Davis, after he signed his big contract, he used to be about a 260 to 270 hitter. 2016, 221, 2017, 215. By 2018, he batted 168. And I asked Brandon if he thought that the shifting had something to do with that. And Brandon kind of nodded his head. It's such a difference when a hitter goes 1 for 4 rather than 0 for 4. And the 0 for 4s just kept mounting up for Chris. When that batting average is so microscopic, it starts playing on your head. Your comments.
No, there's no doubt about that. And if you could put your finger on one player where the shift has hurt the most, it's probably Chris Davis. There's no doubt about that. Now, is that all of his problems? No, that's not all the problems. Nobody's saying that, but he has really, really been hurt bad by the shift. Because when the second baseman can play nearly right field, and he hits it hard in the hole like we've seen him doing a lot the last 3 or 4 years, and, he's got nothing to show for it, then you start thinking as a hitter, and Ross can speak to this too, that, okay, I got to do something different. What can I do different? I got to try harder. When we start trying harder, bad things happen. And so I think it's all spun out of control for Davis for a lot of different reasons, And if there was any one player that I hated to see the season end last year, we all know, because Chris Davis, to me, in spring training last year, was a different dude that I saw the last couple of years. Like, he was confident. His chest was stuck out. He was bigger and stronger than he'd been the last couple of years. He looked good to me. And then the season gets pushed back, and he's not the same guy. We found out he's tried to fight through some injuries. And I think mentally, when he got off to a slow start, it started to just, escalate again. And all of a sudden, he ends up having a very similar type year and trying to work through some injuries. So you hate it for Chris a lot of different ways. And if there's one guy I'm pulling for, it's Chris Davis. I hope he can find a way, because he says he still wants to play. I saw a little bit of stuff on him. He said he's still hungry to play. And so if he's all those things, and I'm pulling for him. But you got to wonder, if we get kicked off on time and the regular season goes like it does, you get the All-Star break and Chris Davis is hitting 160 again and punching out a bunch, you start to wonder, okay, is this going to be the end for Chris Davis at this point,
I know, Ross, I know we're going to get into some of the current pitching staff, but I got to ask you about your nephew. The Orioles took a Rule 5 draft pick out of the Cincinnati Reds organization, and the pronunciation Skiroller, Mike Skiroller?
It's Sorolla.
Max
Sorolla. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about him and where you think he could fit to make this club.
Well, he's a strike thrower kind of kid, right? So it's an average big league fastball, but he'll bump up occasionally. So he's going to average 93, but he'll throw some 5s and 6s up there. But what he does do well, guys, is he's a control pitcher. Like, if you look at the numbers, he throws a lot of strikes. He's got 2 different breaking balls that he commands well. And I'm not going to say a ton to do with him, but a lot to do with his mental thought process, and because it was my mental thought process that I brought to him, because he lives 5 miles down the road. He's my sister's boy. He works out in my gym. I was around for his youth league in high school and college and all that kind of stuff. So I always had a little bit of an imprint on him, but he's the kind of guy that understands it's okay to pitch to contact. Like, if he can go out and get a couple ground balls and a pop-up, but he didn't punch out anybody, he's okay with that. Now he understands he likes to strike out guys, and there's a need to from time to time, but he's going to be more of a control guy with 2 different breaking balls, a really above average changeup that he runs down and away. But the fastball's sneaky too. And Mike Elias alluded to that, when it comes to the spin rates and the analytics, that's really why they drafted him, because his analytics on his fastball, the spin rate is above average, the breaking ball is above average, and so is the changeup too. Now, the danger with Mac is that he's never pitched past A ball, and very seldom does an A ball pitcher make it in the big leagues and is successful. But, guys, the analytics have gotten so crazy now. They can take the analytics and the spin rates of all these pitchers, and they can plug them into what the major league average hit against that particular spin rate fastball, that particular spin rate breaking ball and changeup. And they can kind of give you an idea of, okay, can this kid have success at the big league level if he can have these types of spin rates? And, it's funny, I had lunch with Sig Meidel last year, and, we were having a conversation. Hey, how did you go from A ball to the big leagues? And I was explaining to him, well, first of all, mentally, I thought I could handle it. I thought I could handle getting beat around, and I did. I got busted up several times, but it didn't crush me, right? Like, I didn't go to timeout and stick my lip out, but I said, you know what, I got to get better. I got to do better. And so I could handle the days I got beat up, but I had success too, and it was on the job training. I think Mac is a lot like that too. I think he can handle those kind of things, because that's a big jump. But, the good news for him, he goes to big league camp. he gets his feet wet, he sees what he can do. And I've always told Mac, even before this happened, I was like, dude, I wish he was in the Oriole organization because it's a land of opportunity right now. And if he does well, I told him, I said, look, dude, it's in your hands now, right? I mean, you got picked up by the best organization that could pick you up as far as an opportunity to play at the big league level. It's in your hands now. Now you go out and you see how good you are. And, he led his league, the A-ball league, in strikeouts, 2 years ago. And like a lot of minor leaguers, he just, didn't have a season last year. He couldn't develop, didn't go to the fall camp or nothing. So, but he worked hard the whole off season. He kept throwing the hitters at the local college. So he's ready to go, and he's excited about his opportunity.
Ben, does he pick your brain? Coming from Cincinnati, where they had all the drive line guys going on there and stuff, does he pick your brain about pitching? Is he receptive to what you got to offer, or does it kind of, bump heads with what's going on now?
No, now if you're talking about my son. Yes, my son Jace, who's a pitcher.
Well, of course, sons do that.
Because you know how it is with your own kids, right? But my boy's in junior college at LSU Eunice, a couple hours down the road. He's a pitcher for them, but it's like Dad don't know nothing. Like I didn't do anything like that.
Right.
I would be throwing a football in there, But Mac has always been very receptive. He's a very coachable kid. And he's always tried to take advice. And I always tell him, I said, you're going to get a lot of advice. And I did too, maybe too much, but you got to understand what's going to work for you. And maybe you try a few things, but you can't listen to everybody, because then your head starts to, everything really starts to spin. But no, he's a coachable kid. I love it, the way he commands. I like the way he competes. I like his body. I like his arm. And, he was a late bloomer. And it's a good story for a lot of kids. His sophomore year in high school here at Dillon Springs, where we live, he didn't even make the varsity team. His junior year, he pitched very little. His senior year in high school, he started to bloom and became a small college prospect, like not a major guy. Then he goes to Southeastern Louisiana down the road, which is a small D1 school, and he makes freshman All-American in the rotation as a sophomore, and then all of a sudden is a fifth-round pick as a junior. So he was really a late bloomer, and his velocity continues to tick up, and his stuff continues to get better. So I like his stuff. We'll just have to see how it plays at that level.
I was talking to Brandon again earlier today, and I wanted to ask you about, did you get to talk to Darren Holmes at all this year? And what do you think he brings? He's not your old school bullpen coach who just kind of pudgy ex-catcher or something like that. This guy's a pretty sophisticated pitcher himself in his day as a relief pitcher. What do you think of Darren Holmes?
I think Darren Holmes is a perfect blend of old school, in your face, gritty mentality. I'm coming at you. We're throwing strikes. We're challenging guys, but also the perfect blend of where we are with analytics today and being able to understand high spin rates, being able to communicate to guys, okay, dude, you got a high spin rate fastball. We need to pitch up in the strike zone with it, And here's the thing, be able to explain to you how mechanically you can get the ball in those situations. I mean, these analytics are great. And we've always said that. If you tell me I got a high spin rate four-seamer, I need to pitch up in the zone, that is wonderful. If you tell me my slider's better than my curveball, then I'm going to throw more sliders, right? If you tell me my changeup is way above major league average, that is all helpful information. But at the end of the day, we got to have pitching coaches that are a perfect blend of that, but also understand mechanically, how can you help me get these balls in these? It's wonderful to tell me pitch up in the strike zone, but damn it, if I can't get it there, I gotta lean on you mechanically to say, okay, this is what you need to do to get the ball there mechanically. And I think he is a perfect blend of that. And I think he's obviously the assistant pitching coach now, and I really like him. I think, and I think Chris Holt is a real analytical dude that also pitched a little bit too, but he's, I think, more analytical and being able to explain it to kids really good and open their mind up to what they do and be able to look at that computer chart and say, okay, these are the things you do well. These are the things that's going to make you successful if you can do these things. And I think Darren Holmes is going to be really good at explaining how to get those balls in those certain situations.
Great answer. Great answer. Uh, Starting pitching this year, since you've been back broadcasting Oriole games, there's no other way to say it. It's been pretty lousy starting pitching.
Yes.
But with Means, hopefully a healthy Cobb, and Kramer and Keegan Aiken rounding out that rotation. And I think they'll add another veteran guy, somebody that's coming back from an injury or something like that. Do we have a chance? I'm not talking about contending good, but just good enough to suddenly give you a chance to win every night.
I think so. I mean, look, last year was a big jump for this pitching staff. You go back to 18 and 19, and the Orioles were dead last in the American League in ERA. The Orioles at least jumped to 11th this year,
Yeah.
and so they did better. The starting pitching was better too. Now, it wasn't great. It's below average, but compared to where it was, it took a big jump. Now, the relievers were outstanding, as you know.
Yeah.
I think the relievers finished 7th in ERA in the American, and that's losing Michael Gibbons and losing some dudes, right? And so I thought Doug Brocail did a good job. I thought the pitching coaches did a good job last year. I think the boys responded because the big thing in spring training was we got to quit walking. I mean, I was there and got to spend 2 weeks in spring training actually listening and in uniform and watching before COVID hit, and got to listen to what they were preaching. And what they were preaching a lot was we've got to be more aggressive in the strike zone. We got to challenge guys a little bit more. The hell with the walks. We got to get away from walks and we got to go after some guys. Well, for the most part, the Oriole pitchers did that last year. And so I saw them get better. But to answer your question, you love the way John Means finished up, right? It was a rough start for him, but my gosh, those last 3 or 4 or 5 starts, he a true number one guy showed up, a real ace showed up. So you feel great about him. Alex Cobb, gosh bless him, right? It's been a rough go for him with the Orioles. He's not won a handful of games in 3 years because of injuries and all kind of stuff. But somehow these veteran guys seem to have a good year when it's contract year, right? And so if he's healthy and all indications are he is, and let's hope that he is, because everybody knows that Alex Cobb's going to be a trade piece, right? I mean, we all know that right now. We're hoping he has a heck of a first half so the Orioles can trade him away and get some prospects, because they're not going to sign Alex Cobb back. We all know that. So I like those 2 veterans. Dean Kramer showed me a lot last year. I love Dean Kramer. He's a strike thrower. He's got that cut fastball. He challenges guys. I mean, he came out just acting like he belonged. His mound presence, the moments were not too big for him last year. That showed me a lot. Now, when we get 40,000 back in the stands in certain places, we'll see, because that was kind of the hidden thing with all these young guys that came up. It was almost like spring training, not even spring training games in some ways, because you didn't have to deal with rowdy crowds on the road or in front of your home crowd. That was an advantage to making your major league debut last year. So, but I still like the stuff. I like his approach. Keegan Aiken, I'm going to be honest with you. The first time Keegan Aiken threw, I was not a fan. I said, I just don't know if Keegan Aiken, I said, I see this guy as a bullpen piece at best.
He looked to me like a guy I might see behind the deli counter somewhere. He
did
not look like an athlete.
Like I'm sitting to myself and doing the game on TV, just thinking to myself, okay, if this is one of our prospects, I'm not liking this cat at all. And then all of a sudden, when he got his first start, okay, the fastball's got some life to it. Dang, the breaking ball's better than what they said it was. And that changeup was really good. And I go, okay, now wait a minute. Now, if he can do X, Y, and Z, yes, he's not a 1 or a 2 or a 3, but I tell you what, he's a 4 for sure and a 5 for sure, big league rotation guy. Yeah. So I like Keegan Aiken. And then, of course, after that, Jorge Lopez has shown good stuff at times. Zimmerman, the Sorolla kid you mentioned, Lowther. Does Lowther come up? Does Bauman come up this year? Does Wells come up? And so there's some pieces there that's going to fight for the field. And I'm like you, saying I think the Orioles will go out and find a shortstop. I think they're going to go out and find a veteran starting pitcher too that's going to be out there at some point in time as well.
Ross, you got 1 or 2 quickies, and then I got one last one. Go ahead, Ross.
One of the things that, like you said in spring training, the Orioles had the 11th fewest base on balls. That was a big thing for them. They threw fewer pitches than they have in the past. So again, maybe that is starting to take hold. They're getting to believe a little bit more. Aiken, I like Kramer, just like you said. He's got 4 pitches. He looks like he belongs out there. Aiken hides the ball tremendously for a guy with his stuff. They do not pick it up. and he pitches behind, those he uses off speed pitches, which is outstanding. Behind in the count, he's able to do that. But, John Means is going to be Means. I mean, I think he learned something last year by coming in thinking he could be a power guy.
Yes.
And he didn't have success. They go, wait a minute, I got to pitch. He finally, I don't know if somebody reminded him or he goes, I'm tired of getting my ass beat.
That's right.
I think Brandon reminded him of that about midway.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's, he just not a velocity guy. And guys that, and I've seen this in the past, guys that throw 92 start throwing 95, 96. They don't have the command, and they really have a tremendous chance of getting injured by doing that because they've never done it before. But,
That's right.
One of the things I wanted to ask you, Ben, is Mancini. Trey Mancini is going to be 28, 29 in September. Is he going to be around for this? This thing.
That's a great question. And one thing I love about Mike Elias is he hadn't held anything back. Like, he has done exactly what he said he was going to do. And he said, if I can move one of our guys and it makes our organization better and it injects more talent into our organization, I'm going to move guys. And he has done that, and that's what I love about him. And the previous front office that was in there, it felt like it was a three-headed monster where there was all pulling. There was guy pulling this way, guy pulling this way, and everybody had a finger in it. It seemed like Mike Elias has done this his way. And I love that about him because he stepped up and said, you know what? I'm going to do this my way. If I know it's going to work because it worked in Houston and I was there, and I think it'll work here in Baltimore. And if it doesn't work, he's got nobody else to blame but himself, and he's willing to take that. And that's what I love about him. But to answer your question, I think Mancini is going to be here for this. I really think that he's the kind of guy that can be a big-time leader off the field, in the dugout, in the clubhouse. He's that kind of guy. But he also brings a work ethic. Even before this hit him, he's a different kind of cat that was never a big prospect, that worked his way in college, in high school and college, and learned how to work. And, the way he's going to come back this year, coming from what he came from, only made him stronger. And I really think Mancini is going to have even a better year. And that's hard to believe because he was outstanding back in 2019. But I think he even has a better year. And I'm excited about the middle part of the lineup. When you talk about Mancini and Santander and what we saw from Mountcastle, I think you got three bats that sit right in the middle of that lineup. So I like where the Orioles are in the middle part of the lineup.
Let me close with one last question, Ben, because we want to get you off in time to get ready in front of your big screen TV to watch Alabama and OSU. What do you predict on January 11th? What are you predicting for this season? Not from the Orioles, the baseball season. Is it really going to is everything going to start on time, or do you see this being more like 110 game season?
That's a great question. So much of me wants it all to start on time, and I keep telling, my heart keeps saying it's going to start on time. But the reality of what's going on, y'all, with it seems to be more cases are being out there, and this, that, and the other. My gut is telling me that college baseball is going to get pushed back a little bit, and my gut's telling me that MLB season the spring training will not start at usual time. Now, I don't think it's going to be a big delay, but I'm thinking somewhere along the line, instead of 162, we play 130, something like that. That's what my gut is telling me, but my heart is saying, hey, we're going to play 162, pitchers and catchers on the 16th. Let's go, boys. But it's hard to say. I got my fingers crossed. I'm praying for everybody and everybody's health and you guys and everybody in Baltimore. It's been a rough time for my family for sure, and a lot of other families around the country. So I'm looking forward to baseball season.
Well, hang tough and stay safe. All right.
I appreciate that.
We really appreciate the time. All right.
Anytime, guys.
All
anytime.
Right.
Take
For
care.
Ross Grimsley, I'm Stan the Fan Charles, and we want to remind you that Press Box Live tonight has been brought to you by C3 America Exteriors. Go to their website at c3america.com to get your roof damage repaired for just the cost of your deductible. We'll see you Wednesday night. Gary Stein and I will have a little Ravens huddle with a couple members of the media. Good night.